Hi, I'm Dave Epstein. Welcome to this edition of Growing Wisdom, and today we're talking about nutgrass, how to identify it and how to remove it. I have some nutsedge coming up in my vegetable garden, and I cannot treat this with a chemical. And the only way to get it out is to get it out. So you want to dig it up. Now you got to be super careful because it's really interesting if you look here. First of all, see that little white? That's going to run and pop up another grass plant. And then if I got lucky, which I may not have. Yep, I did. So right there. Let's see, I don't want to drop it, but that is the little nut. And you've got to get that in order to get this out. So I have to, it'll take me a little while. It's not too bad, but I've got to dig each of these up, and then I'll put these in something, hopefully they don't go through that hole, and I'll discard them in the trash. Do not put this in the compost pile. But if you have a small area like this, you can dig it up. That's what I took out of that little area of the garden right there. So I will discard this. I think it's helpful to understand how the nutsedge grows. So I showed it to you in the garden, but here it is. I brought it inside and just washed it off. So you can see, look at the roots, and there's the little nut. It's like a bulb, right? So if you just start yanking this, you know, and you pull it, and you were to remove that, right? And you're like, oh, I got it. That's what's left under the ground. And what's under the ground are all these little roots that are gonna run and pop up as a new one. So you have to get the whole plant. You have to get the nut and all the roots. Now, I could have left a little piece in there, which will eventually form a new grass, but if you're on top of it in the garden, you obviously can't do this in your lawn, you know, unless you had a very small area. You could dig up the grass and pull it out, or replace the grass, just get the whole area out. But in a garden, you can do this. If it's widespread in your lawn, unfortunately, you either leave it or you have to use an herbicide, and I'll show you that in a second. I have done this part of the video a couple of times. I've done a couple of takes, and the reason why is because I'm trying to get the message. I want to be clear about the message on synthetics versus organics, and the fact that I'm going to be talking about a synthetic chemical to control nutgrass or nutsedge. And I don't like to use synthetics. This garden is nearly all the time organics. Organics are still chemicals. Sometimes people think, oh, I'm just using organics. No, organics are still chemicals. You still have to use them judiciously, carefully, follow directions. They can still be harmful to bees and butterflies and other aquatics. So you have to be careful using them. In the case of this video, we're talking about nutsedge or nutgrass. You can rip it out by hand, or you can use something with the active ingredient here is sulfentrazone. And, you know, I went onto the Minnesota Department of Ag site, and, you know, they say that it's not that harmful, that it is not harmful to aquatics, birds, bees. It is found in groundwater, about 10% of the groundwater that they tested. They found it at low levels. It has a long half-life, which means that it takes a long time to dissipate out of the environment. So that's why I don't like to use these things. But I also know the reality is, if you have, some of you, if you have this in your lawn and you're like, how do I control it? You're going to find this, so why not talk about it? And if you're going to use a synthetic, follow the directions, use it judiciously. I like to use things in late, early evening when the wind tends to be calmer, or very early in the morning, so that you're not getting drift, because this can affect things like my vegetable garden. I don't want to put this near the vegetables. Even if it says it's fine now, it's fine today in 2024 when I post this video, it might not be in 2028 or 2035. I don't know. So I try not to use this stuff unless it's absolutely necessary. Now, I'm not using this on my lawn. I have it to show you, but I get it in the garden, and I won't use it in the garden. I just kind of pull it out. The garden's small enough. So as we go through and I show you what nutsedge, nutgrass looks like, just know that if you have a large area, you might have to resort to using a synthetic to control it. Just follow the directions and use it with caution, care, and as little as possible. Nutgrass is very difficult to get out. You're going to have to use a chemical if it's in a large area if you do want to remove it. Smaller areas, you can take it out by hand. It does take some time, patience, and be sure to get that little nut at the bottom. For Growing Wisdom, I'm Dave Epstein.